All right, members, good morning. Thursday, October 23, about 7:08 a.m. Eastern, a little bit earlier today. Got some things I got to do early this morning. So here we're Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. Beautiful, beautiful structure here. This is upwards accumulation, right? Very similar to what we saw back here and what we saw in the previous bull markets. Just consolidating before the rip higher, in my opinion. We're sitting at 109.4 as of the time of this recording. Starting to get a green weekly candle. Looks beautiful, right? If we pull the fibs on this, and again, we're pulling from the high to this bear market low, we're just kind of consolidating between the 1.414 and the 1.272. And the next stop is the 1.618, which is 173K. So that's our next target. And then we'll kind of take this one step at a time, but I do think we can get up to 307, potentially up here. But we just want to keep following the chart as it plays out. We need more data, right? If we lay on the power law over these fibs, this is why I think these upwards targets are possible, right? If the 4-year cycle is done, maybe it's a 5-year cycle now. Maybe it just has to do with liquidity and the business cycle, maybe, right? And so who's to say how far those are going to go right now? Real Vision thinks that this can go into late 2026, maybe even 2027, right? So that would bring us kind of in this ballpark. That's why I think, the 307 is pretty, I don't want to say realistic to hit, but it would be within the power law for it to hit it, right? Anything above this red line, that's where it's like, okay, that's why I don't think we'll necessarily get to $1 million overnight, right? Not in the next couple years. That's going to take probably 5 to 10 years, but we'll see, right? If we zoom in on the weekly, again, we're just bouncing, touching this 30-week moving average. Everything's inclining here. Everything looks really healthy. If we have our range here, we want to get to the top side of this range, which is going to be very exciting because that means we're nearing the breakout of this, I would say, upwards consolidation, right? Kind of think about it as like a cup and handle. If you tilt your head to the left, a cup and handle, with a measured move target, at least to that 175K area, right? Then we're going to see what happens. Now, if we look at the daily, again, we're just finding support at the bottom of this range, on this arc, on this dome. We're making the turn here on the 30-day cycle. We're also making the turn on the 80-day cycle, right? So like I said yesterday, the 30-day cycles, they're a little bit stronger in my opinion, where price really reacts to the 30-day cycles quite nicely. Recently, the 80-day cycle has just been consolidation, right? So going to be interesting to see it play out. My thought is maybe we get to the top of this range with this 30-day cycle, similar to as we did back here. And then we maybe retest the mid-range, and then maybe that's the launching move, right? Near December 1 or so. We'll see. Still some work to do with the 30-day moving average and the daily Ichimoku cloud. Still looking for a local bottom on the DMARC indicators. We may not get one, and that's okay. Now, Bitcoin Gold on the weekly time frame, again, solid support area. If we bring in the bearish look, we broke down below this head and shoulders resistance line. Now it's resistance, right? We want to get back above this, right, to kind of maybe negate it, or maybe this is a head and shoulders and it breaks up to the upside, right? That would be super bullish. But this support line is pretty solid, right? I mean, the clean touch points, isn't the end all be all. But again, this is a chart we just want to get above these yellow resistance lines ultimately. If we can do that, we'll be super happy, right? If we zoom in on the Bitcoin Gold bullish chart, work to be done, right? There's some resistance we want to get above here. There was a little one here that it didn't include, but we broke out of it, right? You can see like there's a little bit of a down sloping resistance line. We cleared that. We found support where we wanted to find support, where we found support in the past, and that goes in hand with this green band. Now, another look at Bitcoin on the daily here, right? Megaphone, maybe a head and shoulders pattern here to kind of give us that energy to the top side of this range, right? We also, I think, are starting to, this is getting interesting here with this 297-day gold fractal, right? I mean, if this starts creeping up here, this is going to be very exciting. I'm going to be excited that we found this overlay. And again, it's just an overlay. It's just speculation. It is fun though, because I mean the consolidation gold did 297 days ago is very similar to the one we're doing now, right? And the premise is, gold is current financial conditions. We're just waiting on the ISM and the business cycle to catch up. I believe the next ISM data point release is around November 1st, maybe that Monday, November 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So if that cracks 50, if that breaks 50, I think it's on. And that's going to go hand in hand with November, early November, right? That's right when Bitcoin could wake up, so to speak, and be like, okay, it's on. Now, if we also overlay the power law with this overlay, a lot of overlays here, and this channel, this kind of plays in line with our next target of 173, 175K, right? And then we consolidate, and then we potentially could rip to that next number, which is 307, right? If we go back, yeah, 307 is the 2. So that's, up here. That would be this blow off top area region. The high part of this power law is up here, right? That's probably when we would understand that Bitcoin is overheated. There's probably going to be a lot of talk around, hey, this is going to $1 million. And I think that's when maybe we take some chips off the table, if that suits you. If you just are a buy and hold guy or girl, that's great too. I will probably be taking some chips off the table and to buy back in lower, right? And that's just me. Okay, command center starting to look better here. We're breaking out of this. This is that little downtrending resistance line that I was talking about. It's trying to rhyme here with gold, and the rate of change is kind of doing its own thing, right? It's not quite the M2, it's not quite gold, it's Bitcoin, right? But there is a little bit of a downtrending resistance line here on the rate of change that we want to get above. All looks good. We want to get back positive. ADX is still doing its thing, but looks like it's starting to improve, right? Okay, so here's MSTR on the weekly, right? We've lost this trend line, at least right now, where we are in the week. We still have a day left in the week. A day and 10 hours. But we've lost this trend line, right? And that's okay, right? Here's what I'm thinking, this is what I'm hoping to be a reaccumulation, just a consolidation, a structure where, maybe it's the risk reward is adding or layering into your investment at the bottom of this range, right? There still could be some downside, but again, we're consolidating between the 1.618 and the 1.272. It's a big range, right? It's 540 to 245, right? It's about a $250, $275 range. And it could just be a big consolidation, a big reaccumulation, right? It could also be a distribution. And I'm not as big of an expert in Wyckoff as some other folks are, but I kind of just look at the charts and see how it plays out, and we'll call it like we see it. But I like to think this is a reaccumulation, right? Before we can maybe go to the 2. The 2 is right around 1,300. That would be our next stop, or what my next stop would be. But again, there are these higher price targets, and I should have included Julius's power law, because the top end of that power law range has us going to, I think, 4,000 or so, right? So I think that's possible, guys, as crazy as it sounds. Now, I also wanted to shout out Peter DiCarlo. He's a great follow on Twitter. MSTR is setting up for a 50 to 75% breakout into year end. Prices pulling back into the smart money zone. Structure's still bullish, but BX Trender hasn't confirmed the bottom yet. If institutions step in around 280, BX Trender flips higher low, and we confirm the bottom into late October, early November. Upside targets 400, 500. The invalidation is if we lose 280 and sweep 230, panic flush to 175. Patience here pays, confirmation first, profits next. If we zoom in on that image, again, what he's talking about is this bigger consolidation, right? Here's where the institutions are buying, here's where the smart money's buying. It's at these range lows, right? And hopefully it's some sort of double bottom. And then once this indicator here flips to light red, that's the signal that this is probably a local bottom, right? And then he thinks we'll run to, these are standard deviation bands, which I may start incorporating because I think that they're pretty interesting, but he has us at least getting back up to 500. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to think, are we going to get these massive runs, these big explosive move? I'm not sure if we are or not, right? It could just be a little move up here to 500, to 600, to 700. Who's to say? I like to think that we could have much higher targets, right, to the 2 or the 2.272. Here's MSTR under the hood. Looks ugly, guys. This is ugly. This is why I think we could still come down even further. A lot of work to be done here. We need explosive price action. You can see the ADX looks terrible, right? The red is starting to even go higher. The white is starting to come back above. So that's signaling a stronger move is coming to the downside. And we have earnings coming up. You know, maybe this is one more flush down and then we rip, right? We shake people out and then we rip. It's hard to stay bullish on MSTR, right? I'm feeling that too, but I think we have to take the longer term time horizon here. High time frame or low time preference. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. Now MSTR Bitcoin, again, this is just a big compression though. I like to think this is a compression, and once this gets through here and we get back above this gray zero line, we'll be smooth sailing in MSTR measured in Bitcoin. Here's Metaplanet on the daily, starting to creep up here. We still want to get through this resistance line, but once this happens, you know, there may be another less steep resistance line that you want to get through, but ultimately that's going to create more energy to be released to the upside. Now here's Mara on the weekly, and this is why, you know, I think Mara's really, really interesting, right? Because this hasn't done this. It had one big explosive move back in 21, 22, and then it really frustrated people, and it's still frustrating people. Here's why it really catches my eyes, because it is just waking up. It's just waking up. So that means there's a lot more room here. See the distance percentage from the 200-day moving average. It can get to 500% above the moving average, the 200-day. Right, and so that's why, you know, this channel exists, and that's why I think we can get somewhere up here. Who knows where? But I really like Mara. The weekly ADX is really low, the white line, and the green's above the red. Right, so on the weekly time frame, this indicator looks good. There should be an explosive move coming, and when we combine that with this energy indicator, we can see it's just waking up out of this consolidation. Right, so in my opinion, the bias is this explosive move will be coming to the upside. Right. So guys, I hope that's helpful. Again, let's follow this fractal. Let's do it. I mean, I think everyone's ready. I'm ready, and let's see if we can start moving our way up. Drop me a like if you guys found this helpful. I'll see you tomorrow.